Let's talk about while loops in this video. Python provides two main ways to loop around a block of code: for loops and while loops. We've seen how a for loop can be used to iterate through an iterable. In our examples, we use the items in a sequence and the numbers in a range. Sometimes we need to keep looping as long as some condition is true and stop when it becomes false. We do this using a while loop. So the basic form is while condition : execute block of code. The condition can be anything that can evaluate to true or false. As long as the condition is true, the code in the loop will be executed. When the condition becomes false, the loop terminates. Alright, so I think a few examples will help here. Let's create a new Python file. We'll call this whileloop.py. Alright, so I'm going to start here by using a while loop to do the same as the for loop that we've seen in previous videos. First, I'm going to type in the original loop. So it's for I in range, parentheses 10, print, parentheses, double quotes, I is now, left to right curly braces, dot, format, and I in parentheses, and we've got two closing right parentheses there. Remember that the starting value of a range is optional and will default to 0 if not specified. You should be able to work out what this code will do before running it. So when I do run it now, we can see the output down the bottom, we've got the values 0 through 9. Right, so I'm going to comment that code out. And we're going to start instead on line 4, and we're going to use a while loop to do the same thing. So I'm going to type I equals 0 on line 4. Next line, while I is less than 10, then print indented, parentheses, double quotes, I is now, we've got left to right curly braces, format, then I in parentheses, our two closing right parentheses, and then we'll put I plus equals 1. Okay, so there's our code. So line 7 just adds 1 to the current value of I. And basically, that line is identical to this line, I equals I plus 1. Now, we're going to talk about this later in the section. The code on line 7 is preferable to the code on line 8, and I want you to see things written in the best way whenever possible. Alright, so I'm going to delete line 8. What I'm also going to do now is set a breakpoint on line 5 before running the code in the debugger. Now, I is bound to the value 0 on line 4, and the debugger is going to be stopped on line 5. Let's do that. We'll run the debugger, and you can see we're stopped on line 5 there. If we click over to the console tab, we'll see the output as we step through the code. So we're on line 5 ready to test if the value of I is less than 10. We can see that it is. So if we step over, it takes us to line 6. We're going to step over again to print the value of I. The value of I is now printed in the console. So we're now on line 7, as you can see. So this is that strange way of increasing the value of I that I just mentioned. Watch the value of I that's shown on line 4 as I step over again. 1 has been added to I, it now has the value of 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. So we're still less than 10, so if we step over again, takes us back to line 6, step over once more to print the value, and we move to line 7. Alright, so we're now on line 7. That's going to add 1 to I again, which should give us the value 2. We should also go back to line 5 to loop again. Notice that I'm not mindlessly clicking the step over button. When you're using the debugger like this to understand your code, make sure you stop on each line and work out what's going to happen. As I said earlier, we're learning to become programmers, not mindless button clickers. Alright, so let's see if we were right. Step over, and I does have the value 2, and we have gone back to line 5. Next time we go around the loop, we should get the message I is now 2 printed out, and I will be increased to 3. And after that happens, we'll get back to line 5. I'm going to use resume program over here this time. If you prefer to step over a few more times, and go ahead and do that. You don't need to watch me clicking the button repeatedly. Pause the video frequently if you do need to catch up. And if I click on resume program now, we have got I is now 2 printed, and we can see that I has been incremented to 3. Resume program again. I is now 4. I'm going to click on the resume program 5 more times until I has the value 9, and we're back on line 5. Now things are going to get interesting, so I'm going to come over here and use step over once more to print the value of I. So I'm going to step over here, I is now 9. And when I step over one more time to execute line 7, we're back on line 5 with I having the value of 10. 10 isn't less than 10. That means the condition on line 5 will be false now and will exit the loop. Because there's no more code in the program, that means the program should terminate. So let's see if we're right. I'm going to click step over one more time to execute line 5. And you can see that has in fact happened. The program has now terminated. And we were right. There's no more output from our code and we get the message process finished with exit code 0 produced by the IDE. Notice that our program's output appears in black and messages from the IDE normally appear in blue. It sometimes uses red for errors and other important information. Alright, so that's a while loop. As we saw, a while loop will continue to loop as long as the condition evaluates to true. When the condition evaluates to false, the loop terminates and execution continues with the code after the loop. We don't have any more code, so the program terminated as well. Alright, I'll stop the video here and in the next one, we'll look at a few more things about while loops. See you in the next video.